At one point in time, Lithuania was the largest empire in Europe. It went from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. I remember once we made snickerdoodles and they ate like half a cookie, and that was enough sugar for them. Like, they couldn't take any more. They're like, oh, it's really good, but that's all I need. And we're like, oh, well, we ate like 6 each before we came here. But so their desserts aren't very sugary. They're very, very frugal. They barely turn their lights on. Every morning they'll go to the market and buy the things they need for that day, which results in a lot of confused looks while we were shopping, because we would go and buy our food for an entire week. People would have this like shocked, concerned expression on their face. Like, how are you going to eat all of that today? Like, do you understand how things work here? During the Soviet occupation, it was illegal to speak or write in Lithuanian or to have books in Lithuanian. Lithuania lost the highest number of Jews per capita during World War II. There was a very significant Jewish population outside Vilnius as well as in Kaunas, but almost all of them were killed. There's a concentration camp in Kaunas that's a museum now that I had the opportunity to go to. Awe-inspiring at what Lithuania has gone through and what they've been able to overcome. The museum of the concentration camp, it's called Ninth Fort. And then there's a genocide museum in Vilnius, in the capital, that was a former KGB prison. So the genocide museum has a component that's dedicated to the freedom fighters in Lithuania. So there were groups of people that would they sort of hid out in the woods, almost like Robin Hood, and built shelters and things that were buried underground that you couldn't see. They collected anything in Lithuania that they could find to kind of keep their heritage alive. The people would write in Lithuanian but using the Cyrillic Russian alphabet. So if someone were to just glance at it, they would think it was Russian, but they were trying to keep their language alive. Lithuania was one of, if not the first country to break from the Soviet Union. The Soviets had control of the media, but there was a TV tower in Vilnius, in the capital, that some of the freedom fighters had taken control of and were broadcasting pro-Lithuanian materials from. So the Soviet Union brought in some tanks. They were going to just like mow down the tower and everyone that was there, but a group of Lithuanians just stood and held hands and lined like in front of the tower. Some were killed. There was enough coverage that it sparked other events. There was a human chain that was made from Vilnius that stretched all across all of the Baltic states. There were just people holding hands that went from Vilnius up through Lithuania to Riga, and then up through Estonia to Tallinn, I think. And so it was just the people showing their unity and solidarity. That was kind of the spark that led to all of the other countries breaking from the Soviet Union and declaring their independence. And so now in Lithuania, any sign or anything has to be predominantly in Lithuanian, and then it can have Russian, but only if it's in like smaller font and beneath the Lithuanian on the sign. They don't really teach Russian very much in the schools. There's older Lithuanians that were alive during the Soviet Union that speak Russian but will refuse to either admit or to even speak because they associate it with the Soviets and then all of the negative experiences that they had that way. Probably the most famous traditional Lithuanian dish is cepelinai, potato dumplings, and they're delicious. There's like a ball of meat then wrapped in potato, and so they're either boiled or fried. Then they'll usually put gravy and sour cream sauce on the top, and so those are very good. They also do a lot of potato pancakes. They'll just fry potatoes and then usually eat them with sour cream. There's a soup that they'll eat in spring and summer months. So it's a cold soup. It's called shalty barshe, cold borscht, basically. So it's beets and cucumbers, kefiras, which is basically like buttermilk. Then they'll usually sprinkle some dill in there. And that is also very good. There'll be potatoes that you'll eat with it. Can take a little getting used to, especially because it's bright pink, like Pepto-Bismol pink. And so when you get like your bowl, it looks a little shocking, but it tastes very good. And then there's a Lithuanian drink. It's like drinking rye bread, basically. It's called gira. It's like Russian kvass. So people either love it or hate it. I really like it. I made some for my family when I got home, and it's not for everyone. And you have to like look at the labels because occasionally there can be alcohol in it. So if you're buying it, make sure that you read what the ingredients are so you're not going to get drunk drinking it. Vilnius is where I spent the longest amount of time. So there's two different types of buses. There's some like trolley buses that are hooked into like wires that run through the city, and then there's auto buses. So the apartment buildings are mostly Soviet housing, so just these giant cement blocks. In their apartment, their couch during the day will then fold down and become the bed that they sleep on at night, just because there's not a ton of space.